Hello friends, good morning, welcome back to the channel. Do you ever feel like as a GM it's a little bit difficult to get your players to roleplay with you and to roleplay with each other? Do you ever feel like the roleplay part of your game is just lacking a little bit? Maybe your characters are way more interested in throwing dice and whacking things with swords than actually engaging in kind of that in-depth roleplay that you might feel like your game could really benefit from? Well, if you have been having trouble with that, I'm going to teach you 2 tactics that I use every single session to really help solve this problem. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's dive right in. Now, there are definitely 2 different types of gamers. There are roleplay heavy gamers, and then there are kick down the door, shoot my bow, and roll my damage type gamers. There's nothing wrong with either style, but if you are a GM who favors roleplay and you like roleplay, you might be wondering, how can I get my players to do this as well? How can I get them to enjoy it as well? And while you can't necessarily change a gamer's style, you can inspire them to step out of that kind of like just crunchy numbers zone and more into the roleplay, even theatrical zone, with 2 techniques that I use every single week in my sessions. One of these techniques is as follows, and I'm going to kind of demonstrate with an example. Let's say that I have a player who doesn't do much talking. They don't do much role playing. They have a weapon, they have some gear, they keep great track of their inventory, and they just kind of walk around. And when combat happens, they roll dice. When something happens, then they don't want to be seen, they roll a stealth check, but they don't really engage in anything. Maybe they say, my character is going to ask where the pub is, but they don't really role play anything. This can be a very big challenge, but here's what I do when I'm role playing and engaging with players like this to try to get them to kind of step out a little bit in that role play shell. The first thing I do is I understand that not everyone loves the deep role play like I do. I like role play. I'll get into character. I'll even do voices, though I'm not very good at them. It's a lot of fun. I'll do mannerisms, and I'll have quirks, and I'll have sayings for my characters that they say or specific ways they talk. And I love this. Not everyone is as into this. However, you can kind of draw them out a little bit with this technique. So one thing you have to do is you want to use NPCs for this. You could use NPCs who are with the party, or you could even use random people that they meet. You might have an NPC walk up to the character. Let's say it's barbarian, and he has a big axe, and really he doesn't really talk much. He just walks around and he smashes heads when he gets in fights. You might have a 12-year-old boy walk up to him and just stare at him on the street. And you might describe it like this. This 12-year-old boy comes up to you. He's wearing normal clothing. You know, he's got little small breeches. He's wearing a shirt. He's got suspenders on. His feet are bare and dirty. His head is dirty. His face, his hair is disheveled. He looks like he just got out of the pig pen. He even smells a bit like chickens. But he's staring intently at you. Roll an insight check. Now, at this point, the barbarian may roll an insight check. And I will say, oh, no. He's staring at your axe. He's like literally staring at your axe, just intently. And he'll just leave it there, right? Now, this is the first level. You are directly engaging this character with a roleplay opportunity, but he may not take it yet. And that's okay. And that's actually not to be so unexpected. He might say something like, I'm going to say, get out of here. Or I'm going to say, what you looking at? Or whatever. You know, he might lightly engage. But then here's the trick. You've got to push it. You've got to push it a level deeper and make it almost impossible for him to get away with not role-playing with you. This is what I call leading the way. As a GM, you want to lead the way with role-play. And the better you do this, the more comfortable your characters will feel role-playing with you, and the more hooks they will be able to latch onto to kind of help them step into that space and make it not feel weird. So in this case, let's say the barbarian, the player character, says to the little boy, get out of here, boy, before I smash your skull. Okay. Now, at this point, I'm going to have a reason for why this boy is staring at the axe. And I'm going to have him persist. He's going to press. He's going to say, Mister, why does your axe have blood on it? Have you been slaughtering chickens? That's too big of an axe to slaughter chickens. I'd be surprised if you can even manage it while you're trying to hold a chicken down on the stump, right? So this is like kind of a funny, weird thing. What is the barbarian going to do? It's very unlikely, if you continue to press it, that character is not going to at least proceed into role play a little bit. And that's really the trick. We're not trying to get this barbarian, the player playing the barbarian character, we're not trying to get him to become a theater expert in 10 minutes. We're trying to get this person to just come out of their shell like 5%. Just role play a little bit. And then reward them for doing so. So let's say that the barbarian does role play and he says to the kid, I smash orc skulls with it, boy. Right? So this was a win. We're getting him to engage with the NPC. This is a win. And at this point, the boy is going to say, hey, guess what? I heard that if you go to the tavern and you tell them that Mikey sent you, you'll get a free ale. I'll show you where it is if you'll get me an ale. Right. So it's like kind of a weird, this is like a weird little thing. It's like, what's going on here? But the point is if you can get him to let this boy tag along, this boy can keep asking him questions. And maybe it comes out that this boy lives on a farm and he dreams of being an adventurer. And he sees this barbarian and he's like, what is this? Like, this person is dressed like I want to be dressed, this big, strong barbarian. I want to look like they look. I want to be awesome like them. Maybe it begins a little like a squire apprenticeship kind of situation, but you can really use this NPC to like kind of dig in. And it's almost like you pin them to the wall with the, like they have to role play with this kid or just make it weird and ignore them, at which point the kid can get more agitated. So let's say that the kid sits down at the tavern and he says, so where did you get your axe? Like he's just asking the most annoying questions. And then the barbarian might say, you know what, I'm done talking. And he might just stop talking. And then the boy might say, come on, where'd you get your axe? And then he might like wait. And then he might like, get a little more agitated. And he'd be like, come on, I showed you this awesome place. You're not even going to talk to me. What kind of adventurer are you if you're not even going to talk? You're right. So he's just like saying nonsensical stuff. And maybe he even like says, that's it. And he throws the ale into the barbarian's face because he's so mad. And at this point, I'm starting to get the thought, maybe this like 12-year-old boy is a little unhinged. Maybe he's actually a little crazy. So he's doing crazy stuff. And now what's the barbarian going to do? See, this type of thing, you almost force players to role play with you. And I don't mean it in like a negative sense because, what might happen is the barbarian might stand up, call the guards, and they might haul the boy away and be done with it. And you want to give your player that agency to a point. The boy might persist. He might succeed at persisting and following him around. But if you keep just going a level deeper, poke, like poke. If you poke them enough, they will come out of that shell and start to role play. And then when they do, you can reward them. Maybe this boy turns out to be a great helper. Maybe he turns out confessing that he never had a father and he just wants to be an adventurer and this and that. So it's like, it can be kind of a fun thing, but you can use NPCs like this to kind of push to get people to role play with you. Okay. I find that this works very well. And I don't mean pushing in the sense that you make someone uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be that way. It's like you push to really, really make it easy for them. Like you're doing all the work. You are reaching across the table with a situation and saying, please role play with me. I will do everything else. All you have to do is say a sentence or two and we will get role playing, right? So that's like, it's that simple. Now, I followed that up with a second technique. And the second technique is that I try to reward players for role play, and sometimes I even make role play a part of a bonus stipulation. So let's say, for example, that they want to persuade the barkeep to give them some information about their target. So they want to roll the persuasion check, but because they don't like to role play, they don't want to actually have the conversation, or they don't want to kind of like, basically they're like, I don't want to speak it. I just want to roll it, see if I can persuade it. It's like, okay. But before you roll, I'm just going to let you know. If you actually role play with them and you tell me how you want to do it, if I like it and if I think it would appeal to the barkeep, you'll get advantage, right? So it's like, they don't have to do it. They're not forced to do it. They can just make a persuasion roll. But if they do the role play, it is very highly likely that they will get the advantage. And of course, you'd want to reward them for it. When they put that effort in to role play it, regardless of whether it's good or not, it doesn't really matter. You can say, oh, barkeep, oh yeah, he's thinking roll advantage, right? So you can do this with intimidation checks. You can do this with persuasion checks. You can do this with any kind of like charisma check, actually. And another thing you can do is you can have NPCs look to this player for like a source of inspiration or leadership, and that can give them bonuses. So let's say a fight breaks out in the bar and the barbarian is there with the 12-year-old farm boy, and the 12-year-old farm boy picks up a chair to fight with, okay? And I might say to the barbarian, you look at this boy and you see fear on his face. He's afraid. You realize, because you have been, back when you were young, there were times when you might have been afraid that you roll me an insight check real quick. So the barbarian's going to roll an insight check. And I'm going to say, if he rolls any good whatsoever, I might say, you know what? You realize that this boy, he looks strong. He looks formidable. You know, he's obviously a stout lad. He could swing a chair hard, but he looks timid. He kind of looks like he's shaking, terrified. You feel like if you could give him some words of encouragement and roll a successful persuasion check. And if your words of persuasion are quite good and you role play them for me, then I'll let you roll with advantage. But you feel like if he could be a little bit inspired, he could be twice as much help to you in this bar fight, right? So it's like something like that. So you have this NPC who needs him, and then he has the chance to do this role play. And if he does it successfully, this is going to help him in the fight, right? So, and it's just a little thing. He doesn't have to give a big speech. He doesn't have to role play in depth for a half an hour. It's little bitty things, a sentence here, sentence there, a little bitty motivational speech to kind of get that character to come out of their shell. And boom, that is how I inspire deeper role playing at my table. I always try to engage. I try to do all the work. I try to meet them way more than halfway with it. I am personally a very in-depth role player. I love to role play, so it's easy for me to do that work, but also I make sure and reward them and appreciate them for it. In fact, after the session, I'll even say something like, I loved how your barbarian was, talking to the kid, and it was so much fun. I love that. I love it. Keep up the good work. I want to give them props for doing that awesome role play. Whenever you want people to do a thing and they do it and you want them to keep doing it, you should always give them praise, which will motivate them, make them feel better, reduce the anxiety of doing it again. And that's really a big part of being a leader too, is inspiring others. Okay. I do have a couple other things that might actually help you a lot. First of all, if you join my email list, you can download my Ultimate Plot Randomizer. If you kind of struggle with plot arcs on the fly while you're trying to role play with your characters, this will help you. You can random roll with a D100 on 4 different tables, roll the hook, the conflict, the conclusion, and on the wild and wacky table to come up with random plot arcs that your players will never see coming, that you can use and apply your own creativity to make them awesome. This will keep your characters guessing and will keep you supplied with limitless plot arcs every single time for any situation. Need your players to role play a little bit more? Use this. Secondly, come join our Discord. There's me and a whole bunch of other awesome D&D people from the channel and other GMs. We discuss homebrew in there. We're playing games. We're discussing game advice, all kinds of cool stuff, sharing art, sharing music. So if you like Discord, stop in, say hi, and hang out with us. We're also going to start doing events pretty soon, which is going to be pretty cool, like weekly events. And there's already D&D games going in there. If you're looking for a game or looking for a group to run a game for, come to the Discord and visit our Looking for Game channel. And there's a good chance that you will find either a game or some cool people to play with. And with that being said, that's going to be a wrap. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on another video. I'm here almost every day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. I'll see you awesome people on the next one.